What's going on, everybody? Back again with another episode. I'd like to start off today by shouting out some sponsors. Um, Rap Fam Unleashed is back on this one. Go check them out at therapfam.com. It is the only worldwide monthly digital magazine dedicated to the vinyl rap industry. Some good stuff in there, and I'm sure with RapsCon just wrapping up, I'm sure the next issue is going to be loaded with information. So go check that out again, therapfam.com. Second sponsor is one of my own making, raptees.com. I am kind of throwing something out there. I've always liked designing t-shirts and putting things like I'm a jeans and t-shirt type of guy. That's what I wear. So believe it or not, I don't have enough rap centric t-shirts out there. So I'm putting together some pretty simple stuff, putting it out there, see if people like it. But if for no better reason than to pad my closet full of clothes that I can wear. So go check that out at Raptees. It's WRAPTEES.com, raptees.com. And for the month of September, you can get 10% off of your order by using the promo code RAPPOD10. That's RAPPOD10, 10% off your order. And hopefully, go there and get yourself a t-shirt or a hoodie or whatever. And I'll be adding to that as soon as I come up with new designs and new things, and we can wear them together. Like the one I'm wearing right now. If you're on YouTube, it says gloss and matte and satin and chrome. So a bunch of different finishes that we use in the rap industry. So go check it out. This episode is Tim Evans. Tim is a industry veteran. He's been doing this for 25, 30 years, something like that. Started out in the sign industry with his dad back in the late 90s, and eventually moved on to his own shop in the early 2000s, and we had a nice discussion about that. A lot of you may know him. I know I did. I knew he was the founder, or is the founder of rappermapper.com, which is the world's largest online platform for locating a rap installer or a rap shop near you. So rappermapper.com. And you may know him from trade shows. He goes to trade shows all over the world and snaps photos, puts them up online. You've seen his stuff in Rap Fam Unleashed for sure. And he also has a shop in Columbus, Ohio, where he and his team crank out tons of commercial rap and do a fantastic job. So check them out online, rappermapper.com. And what's his shop's name? I have totally forgotten it. I'll find it. It is, I got it right here. I was just looking at it. Oh, Pro Sign and Graphics in Columbus, Ohio. So he's actually pretty close to me. And I told him that I'd have to get up there and visit him sometime, which I definitely will do. And if you're in the Columbus area, stop by and say hi. But very important, make sure he knows you're coming. So other than that, let's get into the episode. And I hope you enjoy the conversation that I had with Tim as much as I did. So without further ado, let's go. Hey, there he is.
What's up, boss?
How's it going?
Unbelievable.
Good, man. Hear me loud and clear, I guess?
Yep, no problems at all.
Perfect. Me too. Great. Got one. No hitches. Fantastic.
I've done a couple of these, so I know how to get set up.
Well, I've done a few of them and I'm still having issues with it. I feel like every time I do it, I have some kind of problem or whatever. And it's because I try to do like something different every time or whatever.
Yeah, you change a variable and it doesn't work again.
Yeah.
But usually, I mean, you're changing a variable because you're trying to improve something, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always, I got to find a better way to do X, or maybe this will work better or whatever. And so like I'm not going headphones today, just because like usually like where I'm at, I get some kind of like reverb with my headphones that never comes through on the recording, but I can hear it in my ears when I talk, and I don't like it.
Yeah, because that's disconcerting when you're like
Yeah,
second guessing and trying to see what's going on.
yeah, exactly. So I, kind of go in blind sometimes, and sometimes it works, and other times it hasn't, and other times I've forgotten to press record or whatever. So, but here we are. Here we are. Yeah. So good seeing you. You just got back from RapsCon, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
Long Beach.
Yeah. So you were out there for a few days, I guess, what, snapping photos and doing all that kind of
Doing
stuff for the
my normal thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did photography for a couple of days, and then I was one of the panelists for the Meet the Masters. It's like an after hours
Okay.
kind of a panel. And then everyone just, hangs out, has drinks, and, gets a chance to talk to each other, that kind of stuff.
All right, cool. So, for people who don't know, and granted, fill me in too. I mean, we met for the first time at ISA, in person. I've kind of known your name for a really long time. I've been in the industry a while, and I've known your name for a long time. And the one thing that I associate you with the most is rappermapper.com. Um, so tell people, I guess, who you are and kind of, what your link to the rap industry, to the, or the large graphics industry, like how do you tie into everywhere other than the guy behind the camera at events?
I'm a rapper.
Okay.
I did my first rap back in 1999. I came out of the sign industry. So I grew up, my dad owned a sign shop. So I'm second generation sign guy. And when we first started doing graphics when I was a kid, everything was hand painted with a lettering quill and one shot paints and pounce patterns and all that fun stuff. So I come out of this industry. I love this industry. I used to say I had paint thinner in my blood. Now it's more I have ink in my blood. But yeah, I mean this is an industry that has treated me very well. It's near and dear to my heart. It's a connection with my father. Um, yeah, it's just I love it. I get to. I think a lot of us in this industry tend to be artistic and creatives and things like that. And this is one of the few industries that where you actually can make a good living and raise a family and do some interesting things in your life and still be artistic about it. That is I mean, the core of who I am and where I come from. But then Rapper Mapper was kind of a brainchild of mine a few years ago. In fact, we're be working on our 10-year anniversary limited edition T-shirts starting this week. Um, but it was me solving my own problem. I was trying to find some installers on the other side of the country, and I'm trying to figure out whose shop is close to which, is close to the job location. And, I had, half a dozen monitors up and Google Maps, and I'm trying to triangulate where everyone was and all that fun stuff, and who was certified and who wasn't, and who could I rely on to do the job well. And it was just a mess. So it just occurred to me that maybe I could just solve my own problem, and I went in and started building a database of people. I'm a member of the UASG, so that's a 3M affiliated, not just 3M affiliated wrap installers, but specifically the 3M shops. It doesn't follow a specific installer. It follows the shop, its insurance, it's attention to detail, its finances. Like they're um, very particular and very on top of who is allowed in the UASG. You have to prove that you've been wrapping for 3 years before you can even apply. And they want to talk to your clients. They want to see photos. They want to see uniforms. They want to look at your books. Like they're pretty up there. And I've been a member of UASG since 2009. I think that sounds right. Um, so I started with them because I wanted to find other UASG shops to work with. And I built an online mapping system, solved my problem instantaneously. Like I literally was able to just go blip, okay, here's the thing, and boop, 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 there's all the shops in the area. problem solved. And I got so giddy about the fact that I had just solved my own problem super easy, that I sent out a link to, I think it was on LinkedIn, and just said, hey guys, what do you guys think about this solution? And it just kind of just blew up from there. As they all just went, well, this is awesome. This solves so many of our problems. And then over the last 10 years, we've grown to the largest wrap installer database on the planet. We're in 48, 49 countries now. I think we're up around 1,800 shops, and every single one of them has to apply. They've been vetted, so we check their websites, we check their socials. If they claim certifications, we verify that they have authentic certifications on the list. So we're very on top of making sure that we keep that a resource that is as reliable and as up to date as we can make it, without going around and checking everyone's shops and looking over their shoulder as they're wrapping and things like that. And then that, of course, grew into providing industry news. I started doing shows back in 2016, where I would go and do photography and try to do fast photography. So people felt like they were at the shows. They could log on, they could go to the Facebook page or Instagram or something like that and see, this is, what was going on that day. So it doesn't matter if I was in, my first show was in Amsterdam, shooting a FESPA show. It was the World Rap Masters in Amsterdam. And, someone in the States who, we're all rappers, we don't exactly have a whole lot of time to be going to shows, and we've got work to do. We got clients to serve and all that fun stuff. But, being able to just pop up and see, all the guys that are competing and the cool projects they're working on, and, the raps that they did and the challenges they might have, during the competition and that kind of stuff. It just kind of, I felt, brought the industry closer together. And ultimately, that's what Rapper Mapper is about. It's about connecting the shops, connecting the people who are looking for a rap with the local guy who does the raps. And trying to make the world a little bit smaller, in our own special way. I think what we do as rappers is incredible. We do have great designers, and we provide a valuable service. We're not curing cancer, we're not changing the world, but I think we're making the world a prettier place. If nothing else, we're helping small business. There's a lot of what we bring to the table I think is pretty cool. And most of the rappers, they spend most of their life in the shop. They've got their head down, the squeegee's out, knives at the hip, and they're slogging away. They're working, and I don't think enough people realize the craft that's involved.
That statement could not be truer.
Yeah, I still run into people that will see something, and I'll mention that it's a rap, and they'll look at me and go, "Oh, I thought that was painted." Mm-hmm. No, we've been in industry for 15 plus years. No, we don't paint cars like this anymore. It hasn't, it's a wrap, it's printed. And when you explain it to them, they go, oh, that makes a lot more sense. But it's just, I think what we do is cool. And I get a kick out of hopefully spreading, the rap gospel to more people in the world, and helping them find the rap shops that do that kind of work.
So do you still have you still running a shop doing it?
Yeah, I have a shop here in Columbus, Ohio, Pro Signing Graphics. And we do mainly large commercial wraps. So big box trucks, 53-foot trailers, big and sticky is our thing.
Okay. So so you said you were in the sign. So people who have been in the industry for a long time, 20, because I'm there right there with you. I wrapped my first car in 2006, probably got into the sign industry maybe a year or two before that. So people who've been in the industry, we come from that sign shop mentality, and that's kind of how we got into it. So, and that's your background. So when did you go from sign shop? Now, does your shop work strictly on like large commercial fleet stuff, or are you still in that sign realm, or did you kind of push away from that to focus strictly on vehicles?
We pushed away from that a number of years ago. And we started as kind of a because I have geez, a decade plus in the commercial sign industry as well. Some everything from sandblasted signs, screen printed signs, neon channel letters, LEDs, cabinets, like all that stuff. I don't know how many years I spent painting sign faces, and coming out of the sign booth with your boogers all white and everything else, just because you're shooting lac rolls or you're shooting, whatever. Like I've done all of that stuff. Um, but and when I started pro signing graphics, it was with the intent that I would still do some of that, but we got so busy so quick just focusing on wraps and I don't have to worry about permits with wraps,
True.
which I really like.
True. So when you made that switch, what was that? Was that an easy switch for you, or was it just like an overnight, like, hey, we gotta just stop doing this, or did it take some time to make that
No,
decision?
no, I'm usually pretty pragmatic about stuff. Um, and I try to regularly look at our processes, our sales, our marketing, where our time is best spent, where it's being wasted, and just very quickly just cut the fat. One of the things we cut out a long time ago, probably more than a decade ago, is we don't do design work. Just don't do it. It was just too much of a huge waste of time because we discovered that with our particular clientele, they were excellent in telling us what they didn't like. They were horrible at telling us what they wanted. So we shifted our clients over to a lot more straight B2B and resale stuff. So we'll work with you very closely to refine the design, as far as making it wrap worthy and things like that. But you can work with a professional designer, and then we are super efficient at making it production ready and getting it done.
Right. So do you run into snafus there where a client will come say, no, 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 I don't want to go to three different people. I don't want to, like, I just want you to handle everything. Do you still get that kind of stuff, or do people know your process now and they're just like, okay, no, we know what we're going to do, and
Yeah.
we want you to put the sticker on, but we'll have somebody else wrap it. Are they okay with that?
Yeah. Yeah. Not a problem at all. But it's because I've spent a long time carefully curating our clientele.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I try to counsel other shops to figure out what they're really good at and then say no if it doesn't fit. It's as simple as that. It's harder to do that when you're first starting out. If you've been in it a few years and you're still kind of like, I don't know where my next paycheck's coming from, like, that can be difficult. But people have to realize, shop owners have to realize, and this is hard. I fully understand how hard it is um, for the ego, for the fear of failure, and all that fun stuff. But is it better for you to take on one project with a client that you click well with, that you can work efficiently with, they're going to pay on time, you're going to have a proper profit margin, and you walk out the day with no more gray hair? Or do you say yes to everybody? You're doing 4 projects that week. No one's happy because you didn't do any of them to the best of your ability. And 3/4 of those guys are complaining about things. And like, you gotta find your balance. And I just decided a long time ago, well, after making those mistakes and getting myself burned many times, that it's just not worth the stress and the headache to try and be everything to everyone. So we focus in on just being excellent at what we do and curating those clients that value what we do,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have to, yeah, I think it's being being decisive on who you want to work with is important because, if you're not choosing your happiness and everybody's upset, including,
Point.
you don't want your team upset, you don't want your clients upset, you don't want to go home pulling your hair out,
Yeah.
taking your anger or whatever out on people at your house. Like
For what?
that
A buck?
exactly.
We can always make another buck.
Yeah.
I mean, Honestly, I think most of us, including myself, our biggest issue that we run into is ego.
Hmm.
I can do it. It's we rationalize so quickly and easily of, I'm going to do it this way because whatever reason. And um, I'm an avid reader. I love reading books. Um, and I was reading, oh, it's Timothy Ferriss's 4 Hour Work Week. And his whole concept was to go through and deconstruct things that you think you know what's working, deconstruct it all, rebuild it in the totally opposite manner, and see if that doesn't solve your problem with less time, less stress, and less headache. And sure enough, it works really well if you're willing to just tear it all down, throw out all your assumptions. I mean, how many wrap shops, will look at you and go, well, we don't do design, and we say no to people all the time. And like, I get lots of people this past weekend talk with people and they just look at me and go, what? Like I sound like a crazy person. But it leads into a space where your shop culture is a lot more relaxed. People feel seen. They feel like they're appreciated for their skills instead of just their ability to put out 14,000 fires all the time. They don't feel like they're running around with their hair on fire. Um, I'm a big proponent of good shop culture and making sure my guys feel valued, and trying to always make sure they have an environment in which they can do their best work. And it's
So
hard, but once you get there.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. So what was so did you inherit did you kind of take over the sign shop from your parents? Is that how you started, or did you just kind of go out on your own and start from nothing like a lot of us?
Fiercely independent.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me a little bit about that. Let's back up a little bit to whatever year that was and tell me how or like kind of when you decided to do that, why you decided to do it, and kind of what that journey was like from making the transition to working in a sign shop to starting your own business, working in that business for X amount of time to make sure you're building your clientele and you're trying to build something that's yours to then transitioning into that business owner role where now you're focusing on doing the sales and doing the marketing and doing the advertising and then letting your team actually handle the majority of the work, in terms of like installations and things like that. Tell me about that kind of process and what you went through there.
That is a spaghetti story right there.
It's a lot. It's a lot, but you know.
uh, I mean, I worked for my father for a number of years, and I started. I like to tell people that, being the owner of the business, you have all these glamorous perks and all these wonderful things that you get because you're the boss's son. And my dad looked me right in the eye when I was about 12 and said, "We're going to start you off right. Here's a scrub brush, go clean the bathroom." So my dad was old school, and it was learned from the ground up. You don't get any special privileges. And when you're a kid, there's only so much skill you have at that point, so cleaning tables and scrubbing toilets, and then you get to do spray lat. I don't know if you've ever done spray latting on sign faces. um, Sign faces, illuminated sign faces, especially the big ones, are back painted, right? So we're used to vinyl and things like that, but back then you had to paint them. So you would start with a clear face, and then on the back side of that face, because you wanted the Lexan to protect the graphics, you would introduce your graphics. So let's say for simple explanation, you have black letters with a white background. Well, you had to put spray lat on the face. So it was this rubbery kind of blue liquid, and you would roll it on the face and it would dry. And then you'd roll another layer and it would dry. And we would have all these faces lined up. And, when you're 10 and 12 years old, anyone can, I can use a roller, and the object is to go face to face. And then as everything's drying, you come back around, you do another coat, come back around, do another coat until you get a nice thick coat. And then you go in and hand cut the letters or the graphics or whatever you want, right? When that's done, you peel those out and then you shoot it. So let's say we're shooting in black. You're going to shoot it. You now have a black graphic inside that Lexan. Then you have to tear all the rest of it out, and then you put multiple coats of white behind it. So when you're done from the other side, because everything has to be done in reverse. From the other side, you have black letters, white background. So spray latting was a way of masking things. And any little kid who wants to earn a few bucks over the summer or whatever, they can spray lat. They can go through and work on pouncing patterns, or they can organize things, or you start with the basic stuff. But very quickly, my dad started teaching me how to hand letter, how to mix paints, how to color match, proper technique for, speed lettering and, pinstriping, and how to take care of your brushes. And like, this was all before we even had, we didn't really have, we had a computer, but it wasn't pertinent in the industry yet. In fact, that was one of the things that ultimately kind of pushed me out of working for him. Was he tended to be dismissive of what his son wanted to tell him, which we all can be sometimes. And I was real big on, Dad, we've got to get with the times. We got to get a plotter. We got to get a computer. Like, there's all these cool things that we could be doing. And, I don't have to hand letter all these 4x8s. We can cut them out of vinyl and do them in a fraction of the time. And he was reluctant, not out of maliciousness, but, it's just, again, human ego. This is the way we've always done it, and it's the way we're going to do it, and quit trying to complicate things. So we didn't see eye to eye on that. And I left. I just said, I want to learn more things, new things. And I spent a number of years kind of hopping around, working for a couple different shops. Just always trying to learn new things from new people, until eventually it came back around, and I was working for a Fast Signs in Centerville, Ohio, which is south of Dayton. And great owner there, name of Ron Weir. And he taught me more about the business of signs, right? It wasn't enough that you could make a sign. I could make a sign. They've already been doing it for, 10 years. But he taught me more about systems and how to assign certain roles to certain people, how to organize better, how to establish a workflow, how to be very efficient. If you've ever been in a Fast Signs, the well-run ones are very efficient. You can come in, pick out what you want, come back the next day, and your sign's ready to rock. And they were, if I recall correctly, they're probably the first chain that actually dialed that in well. And they did a good job at it. They still do a good job at it. And from there, I was headhunted by headhunting's probably not the right word. Kind of. I was recruited by another shop out of Columbus, who was looking for someone to come in and basically rehab and save a shop up in Bellefontaine, Ohio. The previous managers had run it into the ground, and they were kind of faced with the choice of either we shut it down or we find someone that can save this thing. And I was recommended by another guy that I had worked for before. Went up and talked to them. I liked the idea of having my own place, to kind of do my own thing. I was already doing my own thing. At the time, I was running a small shop out of Dayton on top of working full-time for Fast Signs, where I was doing screen printed work and sandblasted work. So sandblasted redwood, cedar signage, and screen printing, which is all dirty and messy stuff. But a lot of the small shops love to sell it, good profit margins on it, but they didn't want to have to make it. So I was wholesaling to those guys, but it meant I was working another 40, 50 hours a week on top of the 40 plus I was putting in for Ron. So it was wearing me out. I couldn't do it anymore. I was dying. So I went back and I told Ron what they were offering and kind of what we were looking to do. And he looked me right in the face and he said, "It sounds like an awesome opportunity. Tell you what, you've got 2 weeks of vacation coming. Why don't you take a day of vacation every week for the next few weeks, and you go up there and you start getting them in order." Ron was a sweetheart. He was a really good guy. He said, and while you're doing that, we'll find a replacement for you. You can train them here while you're getting ready to transition out. He was just really cool about it.
Recognizes the potential in someone to create their own path, and because that's what you ultimately want for your team, right?
Yeah.
That's why
You want him to
you
go
want
on to bigger and better things. Absolutely.
exactly,
Yeah, the
exactly.
opportunity arises, and I mean, I've had it with my own shop. I had we lost one guy because his wife was moving, but he got an opportunity to go into a really cool position. I was like, dude, you got to go for that. I mean, you won't get any complaint from me. This is a good opportunity for you. We had one guy that worked with us for a number of years, and he had wanted his whole life to become a cop. And he finally got accepted in the academy. And he was like, I don't know if I want to do this. And we're like, dude, you have to go. Just we want the best for our people. Again, that comes back to culture, right? We can always make another buck. I can always train someone to rap, if they've got the right attitude and they're honest and ethical. Um, there's just no point in being petty and bitter about things. I've got enough gray hair. Why add to it? It's just not necessary. Um, but so I ended up taking that position, did that for a number of years, and that company kind of started going down hard. Um, I won't go into the details of that, but that was my opportunity. That was the time in which I was like, you know what, maybe I need to go back, start working for myself again. Um, and I proceeded to do that. And that was back in 2005. Yeah, right around 2005. And I haven't looked back since. I had spent one of the things I did differently the second time around was I had read a book by Robert Kiyosaki called Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yep.
Right, excellent book, very simply written. There's a lot of stories and things like that, but what it really came down to was if you're just working for someone else all the time, you're never going to get ahead. You know, ultimately, just because of the way finance works and the way economy works and the way the government works, like it's not really set up for just your everyday employee to really get ahead unless they're really good with their money. And I decided that I had a dream that I always wanted to travel. Um, so I spent 3 years saving my money, reading every book I could get my hands on about accounting and finance and legal and marketing and sales and all of that stuff, just absorbing everything I could because I had learned, well, from the mistakes my dad had made, that it's more important to know how to run a business than necessarily be the best guy. I could be the best rapper in the world, but if I can't manage my finances and if I can't sell and if I can't keep myself out of legal trouble, then you're not going to last very long. Um, so when I finally pulled the trigger and started pro signing graphics, um, it was based around the idea that I wanted to deconstruct all the mistakes that I had made up to that point and all the mistakes that I had learned about and do them all backwards, do them all differently, and grow a business that was more focused on culture over profit, efficiency over just saying yes to everyone, that kind of stuff. So far, it's working. We are regularly booked out months in advance. We're scheduling into 2026 right now, and that's pretty much year round. We really don't have a down season.
Wow.
So and regularly, multiple times, usually at least once a week, if not multiple times a week, I have to tell new clients, no, we can't take your project on unless you're willing to wait, 12 weeks for us to get to it, then we're booked.
Jeez. So are you actively I mean, because of that, I mean that's a huge pipeline that you have full. So are
I
you
have
still
for 15 years.
yeah, I mean, are you still actively selling like on a regular basis to make sure that pipeline is full, or are you kind of just like just riding that wave and that's what
A
keeps
lot
you
of it's
busy?
project management
Yeah.
because we have a good stable of clients. However, there is natural attrition. You could be working with someone who's wonderful for years and eventually they go out of business or something. So you got to be paying attention to make sure that, you know, um, that you're keeping everything at least as much under control as possible.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm fortunate enough and I've built the business enough to the point where I can very carefully cherry pick exactly which projects fit it right in our wheelhouse to make sure that we're as efficient as possible and it's not disruptive to other clients. Because once we take on a project, we've established a timeline, we're hitting it. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm not going to promise someone else that, yeah, we can get to your job next Thursday when I know that I've got projects scheduled for the next 10 weeks. Like it's not honest to tell them that. So I will tell them straight up, look, we're scheduled, we're booked out. This is the time we can get to it. If that's okay, fine. If not, talk to this guy, talk to this guy, talk to this lady. We'll try to be as helpful as possible, but I'll be honest right up front and say, we can't take on your project. I got to say no, respectfully, but no.
Yeah, and that's a big part of knowing how to run it. Knowing when to say no is
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it
absolutely.
changes, of course, depending on your team.
Mhm.
I am very slow to hire. So there's only 5 of us here, but we chug out a lot of work because we're very efficient at our workflow.
Mhm.
When a person comes along to where it's a logical addition to the team, I've been burned before. We've all been burned. I tend to be very cautious when it comes to bringing someone on. I don't want someone to come on and screw up our dynamic. You know what I mean? You get someone with the wrong attitude and you're dropping bombs in your shop.
Right.
And they might be a perfect fit for another shop, but maybe not for your shop. Um, so we've got a couple young guys who've been with us a while, and they're personality wise, ethically, morally, enthusiasm, like they fit our culture. And when you make sure that you do that, your team tends to stay together pretty well.
So what kind of what's your team look like? You said there's 5 of you. How many, like, yeah, installers, front of house, that kind of thing?
We've
What
got
do
3 installers, myself, and then my daughter.
Okay.
So I mainly focus on your marketing, sales, legal, um, all the admin type stuff. I'm a huge believer that the owner of a company should have his finger on the pennies. Um, I know once you started getting to a certain level, a lot of owners have a tendency to like hire a bookkeeper, hire someone to take care of the books, and then tell me what's going on every quarter or something. I've seen a lot of shops get themselves in trouble quick because the owner's not paying attention to the day to day, the week to week money coming in and going out. So even at that level, I normally recommend that owner be paying attention. So I tend to stay on that admin side and focus on that kind of stuff. I occasionally will pop out and help the guys with a wrap or something, but I don't do too much of that anymore. My daughter focuses more on file prep, surveys, that kind of stuff. She helps out with website stuff. So she's more in the office with me. And then the rest of the guys are on the production side, running the plotters and, doing the laminating and the trimming and the wrapping and that kind of stuff.
So any plans to get larger, like grow more, or
Sure.
hire more, double your proficiency, take your 6 months waiting list, chop it to 3 because you've expanded your team, that kind of thing?
Under the right circumstances.
Yeah. Okay.
Said I've been burned before, so I tend to be very cautious now
Hmm.
because the disruption is not worth the growth just for the sake of growth.
Happiness first.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So a quick aside, the reason why I'm so sensitive about that subject is when I was working for the shop here in Columbus before I started my own place, they had gotten themselves into a position where they wouldn't listen to me. Um, they had a big project that was coming through. I kept warning them that you've got to keep this sales pipe full, or when this project is out, you're going to be in big trouble. And it was Sometimes I felt like I was just talking to a wall. And then, of course, the inevitable happened. The project finished and sales went because they didn't keep their pipeline full. And you don't just go around selling big electrical signs like that every day. You've got to cultivate those clients. Um, but during that project, it was almost a year long, and I was working 80 hours a week. So I'd go into the shop early in the morning. I'd work 12, 14, 16 hours a day and come home. And then right at the beginning of that, my second daughter was born. So I had a newborn at home. Pardon me. I was working crazy hours. And when we finish out the project, everything falls apart because they hadn't prepared properly. Um, and I was just, it occurred to me one day as I was thinking back, I'm like, still to this day, I have no memory of the first year of my second daughter's life. None. Like occasional flashes of me going, getting home at 9, 10 o'clock and trying to help my wife out who's exhausted from being home all day with the baby, and, try to feed the baby or, walk around with her, try to get her to go to sleep. But then, I'm there for 5 or 6 hours and I'm right back out again. So like I went a year and I just have no memory of it. It was just a blur. I remember the work, but I think I missed a huge time of connection with my daughter. Um, I don't have very many regrets in my life, but that is one of them, is working so much that I missed that. And I swore to myself, I'm never going to let that happen again. And not only will I never let that happen again, but I don't want to ever put anyone else that ever works for me in that position. I want them to enjoy their life. I don't want them to feel like their work comes before their family or comes before their church or comes like work is work. We can always make another buck. We can it can always wait till tomorrow. Um, so the culture that I've built here is based around, timeline set with buffers. And we do 3-day weekends. Guys only work 4 days a week. And I've done that for 15 years. Like I want them to have a life. Now, if they want to go and get a second job because they're just, I want to make money, well, that's on them. But I'm not going to be responsible for them looking back and going, what happened the last 4 years of my life? Not on my watch. I made that mistake. I'm not going to be the reason why someone else makes that mistake. Maybe I'm oversensitive to it, but it's too important. Time goes by too quickly. And there's always more stuff to do. That's never going to go away. So I think everyone needs to, you need to enjoy where you work. You need to enjoy the people that you're around. We spend too much of our time doing it to not enjoy it. Obviously not every day is going to be, chocolates and roses, but for the most part, you should be jazzed to go in and do something cool like what we do for a living. I mean, I tell little kids when, I get to color and play with cars for a living. And their eyes get about that big because they're like, that's a thing? Like, you can do that? Like, yes, you can. So I think we're really blessed in our industry. We do some cool stuff and we get paid to do it. That's awesome.
Right. So what kind of advice would you have to somebody? So like a big part of why I do this is because like I want to learn from people who've been there before me or, right alongside me. And now like on my journey, becoming a business, starting a business and things like that. What kind of advice, and I'm like kind of focused right now on I have to make sales because I have to fill my pipeline. If I'm not installing, I'm not making money, that kind of thing, because I am a one-man show currently. And there's a lot of us out there. There are a lot of people out there who decide, I can be better on my own than I can in a shop for whatever the reason. We all have our own reasons, right? Um, so that's where I am, and I know a lot of people are out there now. One thing that I'm trying to do is obviously this first year is kind of about, um, making friends, not trying to sell anybody, but making friends essentially.
Farming. You're
Um,
farming, you're not hunting.
exactly. And, and creating awareness, letting people know that I'm out there, that I'm available and things like that. And of course, when you're a solo installer or business owner, you do those things that you had mentioned earlier. You kind of take on whatever you can, whether or not it's a sign or a paint protection film job that you know you can do, but you don't want to do in the future, that kind of thing, because you need to make the money, right? Um, so what kind of advice would you have to someone in my position in terms of keeping the pipeline full, ways to farm, as you said, create the brand awareness and bring in jobs? Like, what are some, I guess, hints, tips, tricks there? Because like for me, I'm not a salesman. I'm just not. I'm not that guy. I need to become that guy sometimes. Like I need to turn it on and turn it off. But my personality is not that guy. I cold calling for me is not a thing. I hate it. I dread it every time I pick up the phone to do it. When I'm in it, I don't mind it, but making that initial like send and actually talking to someone, like I just can't stand it. And I know there's a lot of people out there again who have that same
It's
like
fear of rejection.
fear. Yeah. So
Fear
like
of
how
rejection.
do you get over that? Or how do you like what do you do to combat that? Like what are some things what do you think?
Um, well, I have a very particular story for that because I used to be the exact same way. In fact, I not only did I hate the concept of sales, but I was such an introvert um, that just the thought of having to talk to someone else would make me sweat.
Hmm.
Um, when I took on that job where they needed me to kind of rebuild that shop, I had to I had to get over that. I had to be the face of this shop. I had to learn how to market. I had to learn how to close a sale. And my strategy for myself at the beginning was, first of all, adjust my thinking of what a salesperson is. Right? Most people think a salesperson, oh, used cars, insurance. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? That kind of stuff, right?
Right.
That is not what we do. We sell a solution, right? So I always come at it, still come at it. I recommend that you come at it from what pain are you alleviating for this person? Now, if you're cold calling them, you're not alleviating a pain, you're causing a pain,
Right.
right? So why would you continue to do something in which you're literally your first connection with someone new is, hi, I'm here to bother you? That's not conducive to what you do, right?
And that's exactly how I see cold calling is ball. And I understand it's a numbers game. Like sales is a numbers game.
Yeah, you're looking for the no's, right?
Right.
I get to my 50 no's, I find my yes, right? That's where you have to delineate and understand the difference between marketing and sales, right? If you market well, then the opportunities to sell start coming to you. You've already changed that dynamic, right? So, what can you do like you're doing now with the podcast? I'm assuming you're involved with like, a local chamber or BNI group or Latips or something like that, right? Where you're talking with other business people. Are you doing anything like that?
Not yet. I
Okay.
know
So
I need to though.
that's more in line with the farming concept,
Yeah.
right? You're building relationships. Do you know who Zig Ziglar was?
Yeah. Yeah, I know
Okay.
that name.
So he had a kind of a catchphrase, kind of a thing that he would tell people, and he would remind people that all things being even, friends want to do business with friends,
Right.
right? Things being uneven, people still want to do business with friends. So you got to get out there and network and make the friends, right? That's obviously easier and harder for different people depending on your personality. For me, it was very hard. It finally got through my head. Okay, Tim, you have to get over this fear. You cannot move forward in your life. You can't build a career. You cannot improve until you get this out of your system. So I forced myself into a year-long trial by fire and joined a BNI group. Now, with BNI, which stands for Business Networking International, you have a group of people that come together every week, and Basically, you have one person per industry. So there only might be one real estate person, one attorney, one house painter, whatever, one accountant. Your goal is to build relationships with these people, become friends, go out and eat lunch together, like get to know them. And then they become kind of a force multiplied sales force for you, or a marketing force. They're now looking for ways that they can possibly get you work. And you're doing the same for them, right? So that's kind of the general concept. At each one of those meetings every week, you had to stand up and give what they called a 60-second commercial. So you are now educating the other people in the group what you're looking for that week. So you might stand up and tell a story, hey, we just did a project for, a local business. They were having a golf scramble, and we did 18 signs for them, for all the holes. And this week I'm looking for someone, looking for other businesses that might have a golf scramble coming up this summer. And the rest of the group might be going, oh, my church is getting ready to have a golf scramble, right? So now I'm triggering potential leads. Okay. The mere fact that I had to stand up every week and talk to a group of people petrified. Like, I would sit there every week, and I forced myself to go every week. And I was so scared that I had to hide my hands under the table because my hands would just be shaking. And I would just have to sit like this. And then I'd stand up and I'd do my 60-second commercial. And then it'd be like, but I did that for a year. I just had to burn it out of me. Just had to burn that fear out. And boy, it was rough. It was rough. But once I came out the other side, I was like, okay, I think I can move on to the next level. And things started getting a little easier. It allowed me to move into what works for me, and that's solution-based selling, right? Unless you've walked into my shop, in that case, it was more like a fast signs, kind of a quick turn kind of shop. If they walk through the door saying, hey, I have this need, I was on that. I'd already been doing it for 10 plus years. Like, I know my products. I know what they're for. I know how colors work. I know how, I know this. So for me, it was a conversation. How can I help you? You want to do this? I'll suggest this. You want to go here? Yeah, maybe think about doing this, because I had knowledge to solve their problem. It didn't seem like sales. I wasn't selling them something they didn't want or maybe were thinking about. I was solving their problem. I was providing a service. I was being helpful, and I liked that.
Right.
So if you can change your mindset from I'm just looking for someone who's willing to give me money to I'm looking for people who have a particular pain because I can alleviate it. So in your area, who are your typical types of clients? What are their typical kinds of pains, and how can you alleviate it? Right. And then as you're talking to the people, those are the feelers you're putting out. You're telling those stories. Hey, we just did a really cool project. It was this local plumber, Frank. Frank? Yeah, we just did a wrap for him. And he just called me 2 days ago and told me he got 4 more projects because someone called his wrap. I'd really like to find other guys that might want to do some graphics on their car. And now the people that are starting to think about this kind of stuff. Now you start getting referrals for something specifically what you're looking for. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I know it was a lot. I just hit you with a lot.
No, it is. No, it is a lot, but it's good. I mean, that's kind of one thing I've realized that, in taking coaching, in large group coaching, one-on-one coaching, it doesn't matter. It's always a tidal wave of information.
Yeah.
And I
And
kind
it's
of
easier
feel
said than done, right?
yeah, yeah. And I kind of feel like, all right, like if I get hit with this tidal wave and I'm able to like regurgitate a little bit of that salt water that I just swallowed,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
think I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Let the rest of it wash over me. But that's yeah. And I think that's good. And that's why I like to talk to people. I love to hear people's stories, where they've been, where they're going, what they've done, how they got there. Because everybody's story is different, but at the exact same time, there are so many people out there that have similar situations or are in similar situations or want to be where someone else is is going or is something like that. So
It's like if you want to be a millionaire, you don't talk to the guy on the corner who's never had, two nickels to rub together. You talk to millionaires, right?
right, right.
And that's the way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Recently, like at the beginning of the year, I took like a little boot camp thing, and we have a group chat in WhatsApp, and we still like it was a 3 month thing, and we still the people in that group we still contact each other. We still talk. Just recently, I went into that group and said, "Hey, like I'm having an issue right now with accountability for myself, like keeping myself accountable to the goals that I set for the week. Like if anybody is having the same kind of troubles, like let me know. We're going to start an accountability group. At the beginning of the week, you put in your goals for the week, and then we're going to check in on each other. How are you doing on your goals? What are you measuring? Can you measure it? And so far, it's going really well because like I've realized that if you can't measure what you're like, if you can't measure the steps towards your goals, like you can't be held accountable for them.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm kind of focusing on right now. But at the same time, like a lot of my stuff, like again, if I'm installing, I'm making money, which is great. Um, but if I'm not,
But if you're installing, you're not selling.
but if I exactly, so I have that roller coaster. I have that roller coaster of income and things like that. So
One things I would recommend that will help you with that is think really hard about your install schedule. Okay. So, and this is kind of what I did when I first started. When I first opened my shop, I worked for a year and a half, didn't pay myself a dime, and that was nose of the grindstone. Just get it done, make as much money as you can, so you have a buffer to where you can start growing. Right? And that's a rough time. Believe me, I understand 100%. That's a rough time. Um, but one of the things that I would do is I would set aside and this was kind of the genesis of the 4 day work week for my guys was on Fridays, no installs would be scheduled. I don't care what you need. The answer is no, because on Friday I'm working on my business, not in my business, right? So Friday was follow-ups. It was sales calls. It was, making sure designs were done. It was the stuff to keep the pipeline moving. And the other 4 days, that was the head down, getting the wrapping done. It's hard, but it's a lot more consistent, and you don't have customers pissed off at you all the time because you're not answering phone calls because you're back in the shop, you're trying to get stuff done, or you're not getting a quote out because you're on the road heading to do something. Like, so it helps you systematize and develop a lot more of a stable schedule, right? So when they call up and you get that occasional, hey, we've got an install, can you do it for me next Friday? The answer is, I'm already booked. Can you do it on Thursday? Or can you do it the following Monday? Because you're booked working on you. That's your time to work on the business, to stabilize it and grow it.
that's true. Yeah, I like that. That's kind of one thing that I've been struggling with as well is making my schedule and sticking to it, if that makes sense.
Because
Planning my
everything
days.
bleeds, right? Everything
Yeah,
just kind of, no, I
yeah,
get this done in 2 days, and 2.5 days later, you're like, ugh.
yeah, exactly, exactly. I mean, I would say that like making pricing. I don't know if people out there like that's a big thing that I've been doing is trying to make my pricing for things. So when someone calls and say, "Hey, I have this. How much do you charge for this?" I can just I know what it is. I know what my costs are. I know what my retail costs are. Because
There's
I
a
don't want
couple of
to.
resources that you can use if you want. On wrappermapper.com, we have a series of calculators where it makes it really easy to calculate out commercial wraps or color changes. And then I have it in English and in metric, depending on where you are in the world. But then I have another site called thesignexpert.com. And
Okay.
I have a whole list of sign calculators, Coro signs, aluminum, banners, where you can just for free, just go blip, 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 blip. There you go. Just to make it easy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I actually looked at that the other day on the Rapper Mapper site, and I was doing that because I was like, oh, I need to get in, and because for the longest time I hadn't signed up because I never had a, a place. I didn't have a
Yep.
shop
Yep.
until rather recently. So I'm like, I should probably
And it's hard to map a shop if there's no
if
shop.
there's no shop. Yeah, exactly. And the shop out of your garage isn't. necessarily a shop. It's great for starting out and things like that, but it's
We do have some guys on there that have their shops in their garage, but they're able to show that this is a legit shop. They've been here for years. Like, the webs, like, we don't just make everyone dependent on one point. We have multiples.
yeah.
And something that we've changed in the last year, because we have a number of guys who'll be like, I want to be on the map, but I don't have a shop. I'm a for hire mobile installer. Like, I only do work if someone's telling me to go and do work. It's pointless for me to have a shop. Well, that's a complete legitimate thing. So we've figured out how to you can apply. We'll still check all your stuff, but then you basically are tagged as a mobile installer,
Mhm.
right? Because we've got plenty of really good rappers that are mobile guys.
Yep.
Their home office is just to do paperwork.
Right.
All the rest of their time is spent working out of their van or their truck because they're rapping for a bunch of other folks.
Right.
But we tried to figure out a way uh, to make it more accessible for those folks, provided they can prove, their rap credentials.
Right. And I think that's a big thing. That was something I actually had to call, or I sent an email to 3M the other day saying, "Hey, I need to update my preferred stuff because it's all ran through the shop that I used to work for. Like has
Yeah.
their
If you
stuff on
preferred, it
there. I'm
follows
like,
you. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, I need to change this. Like I have all my stuff, I have all my credentials, I have my insurance, I have all this stuff, but I need to be listed on your site differently
Right.
now."
Right. How's
So,
that gone so far?
what's that?
How's that gone? Have they got you switched over?
No, no, no. I sent an email to someone like a couple days ago, and I haven't
Okay.
haven't even heard back. So I don't know if that person's not there anymore, or I need
It's
to reach out to
possible.
somebody. Yeah, it's very
Follow up.
possible. Yeah, I need to follow up. So I'm like, so, but again, it just kind of goes down to those things. Is what can I do to again, make myself aware and just be out there.
Is
In
your
the
shop located where again? In
Florence,
Florence,
Kentucky.
Kentucky. That's
Yeah,
right.
Florence, Kentucky. So yeah, it's fine. It's a small little. I actually share a space. Um, I didn't have a place for a while, and then I knew there was a place that was. It was where I go to my gym. In that same building, at the other end was like a sports memorabilia shop, and I was like, I just contacted them. Well, they contacted me to do some graphics on vehicles that they have. They had a junk removal business as well that again, they do all the paperwork there, but then, they're mobile. So I lettered some of their trailers and trucks and things like that and said, "Hey, like, are you guys using the back of your shop like at all?"
Hmm.
They're like, "No." Like, as I was like, "Dude, I would be happy to, sublease for you or whatever, just use half of it. Like, I just need a spot. It's covered, out of the weather that I can install in like every now and again." And they were like, "Yeah, no problem." So that's what I have. I don't have any signage or anything like that because I don't need people showing up at the door asking me for things when A, I'm
They
not
will.
there, or B, that kind of thing. But
But you can
um
also get around that by identifying on the door specific hours,
yeah,
or, call this number, appointment only. Like, even on my shop, it's by appointment only. You don't just walk into my shop.
yeah,
Unless I know you're coming, unless you know I'm back here, you don't wander in. So there's do that. You can absolutely do it that way. And
yeah.
it helps you keep control of your time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's big for me. That's big for me too. Just making sure that I go where I need to be. Like right now, like it's almost 10 o'clock on what is this, Thursday? And I'm at home, because I don't need to be at my shop right now. I
Right.
don't have anything in there to do. So, this is a working on the business day, not working in the business day. Um, and that's how it's been for a little while right now. But things are still going well.
So what are you looking for? So specifically, like in the wrap industry in general, are you looking to do like local installs? How far have you been typically been kind of traveling or roaming to do work for other shops? Like, what are you looking for?
So right now I'm looking for it. Like I just work because again, I need that. But I do subcontract stuff. So I've traveled right now, up to an hour and a half or 2 hours away. Like I was in Dayton just last week, help someone with an install. You know, places in Indiana, northern Cincinnati, that kind of things. Like I don't mind traveling. I usually put that into my rates. Like, okay, you're 2 hours away, that's fine, but it's going to be an additional X amount or whatever.
Wear and
Just
tear on your vehicles, and
yeah,
that's time that you're not at the shop. Yeah, you got to
exactly.
charge for that.
Yeah.
One of the
Um,
reasons why I invented Rapper Mapper, right?
yeah, exactly.
You know, do I
Exactly.
hire, let's use you an example. Do I hire you who's 4 hours away and I got to pay for all of that time because you should be paid for that time? Or does the map spot me some guy who's, 3M certified or Avery CWI that's 15 minutes away?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. No. So, and that's good. So I'm doing that. That's fine. I mean, the ultimate goal for me, like the whole reason I did this was kind of for freedom sake. Like my goal, like listen, I'm 43. You know, in 20 years, I'd like to retire. You know, it'd be great, you know, to retire in 20, 25 years, and have the freedom to do what I want as I wish. But also like right now, the freedom to be with my kids, be with my family when I need to. So setting my own schedule, like that's huge for me.
Mhm.
Because again, like you said it multiple times, like you can make another buck. Like there's always another day, another client you can make another buck with, but it's much harder to make another family,
Yeah.
you know?
You ever get that time back?
Exactly.
You know,
Um,
you might not go to every single little league game, but it's your kids remember that you went to a few of them.
exactly. Exactly. So, and that's big for me. You know, my kids are, you know, obviously in sports and things like that. So I make sure that I'm there when I need to be. Um, so that's big. You know, ultimately, you know, it's the freedom thing for me. Being able to and then provide for a community. You know, having a shop of, you know, 3 to 5 to 6 people that I'm helping, you know, with their livelihood. I think that's important. You know, I find business ownership is a way of giving back to your community as well. You know, helping people you know, helping business to business, helping solve problems,
Mhm.
you know, because in our industry, when we're wrapping a vehicle and putting, you know, big stickers on other vehicles, we're actually help promoting that business, which is then in turn helping them grow and then helping the local economy as well. It's a domino effect, right?
Absolutely.
So that's kind of that's my big thing. And, you know, the whole reason for the podcast is because like I like doing this. I like talking to people, which is really strange. I hate cold calling people, but I will contact someone at the drop of a hat to talk to them about their journey in the rap industry.
So that tells you
Um,
what your passion is, right?
yeah, so it's kind of crazy. Like honestly, like if I could make a living just doing this, I would. And it's possible
Sure, yeah, maybe.
a little bit harder. It's a little bit of a
Yeah.
too much of a niche subject, I think.
Yeah, that would be the big thing. Like, who's the number one, right? Joe Rogan, right? I mean,
Right.
like he is all over the place talking about anything under the sun, whereas we're really we're really
Yeah,
dialed in.
exactly. Exactly. But I like, you know, I like doing this. I like doing design stuff. You know, I'm starting to put you know, like t-shirt designs and stuff up online. And that's something that's actually going to be at the front of this, I think. You know, just a little URL for raptees.com.
Mhm.
You know, so just because I like to have those kind of things out there. I don't know. It's like the creativeness in me,
Yeah.
the creative part.
Yeah, throw
Uh,
it at the wall, see if it sticks.
yeah, exactly, exactly. You know, and there's been so many things that you know you do that, it doesn't stick, and you move on to something else.
Oh, I got a whole
Uh,
stack of them.
yeah, yeah, exactly. You know, and if I could go, you know, to trade shows, like if I could go to every trade show, I would. You know, I like, yeah, again, I like, you know, competing in those competitions and meeting people and, you know, shaking hands and things like that. But again, you don't make money doing that. Um,
That's starting to change now.
yeah, yeah, unless you're training or you're presenting or
Oh, even the prizes. So at Rap Fest or RapsCon, um, the first prize for winning the Rap Olympics was 15 grand. So if you're good enough to win, you can walk away profitable.
yeah, yeah. And that this year that was I know Scott Decker and his teammate, right? I don't
Yeah,
even know
gosh.
his name. Yeah. So like they crushed that. So that was neat. Um, but yeah, I mean, we're coming up on an hour, over an hour, man, which is a pretty good length for one
Right.
of these things. But
And
no,
I quickly,
I will have to get up to your shop one day and come say hi. I'll make sure to make an appointment.
yes, that'd be good.
Because you're not too far away. Columbus isn't too far away from here. So make it, I like to try to visit people when I can as well. Say hi, that kind of thing. So
I literally just had someone walk in the door that does not have an appointment.
yeah.
And he's standing right there. Hold on just
Yeah.
a second. He's respecting my signs and staying quiet. Hey, what can I do for you?
Supposed to be getting some signage put on the side of the FedEx box truck.
Was it an F and an E?
Yeah.
He just sent me an email saying that he was trying to get someone down there and he wasn't sure if you guys were coming or not.
Oh no, we're here for sure.
Okay. Um, if you could just hang out over there for a bit. The guys will be in here in a little bit and we'll get you sorted.
Okay, thanks, man.
All right. Apparently he did have an appointment.
Oh, there you go. Perfect. Well, let's wrap up. I guess let everyone know exactly again who you are, where your shop is, where they can find you online, all that kind of stuff for anybody that wants that information.
Yeah, Tim Evans, founder of rappermapper.com, and you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Oh, geez, all over the place. Obviously, the website itself, that's where most people go. And then I have my shop here in Columbus, Ohio, Pro Sign and Graphics.
Perfect. All right, man. I appreciate taking the time today. Had a great conversation. And was a little thrown off by you interviewing me there a little bit, but I'll take it. So, again, Tim, don't be a stranger. Stay in touch. And if you need anything, again, if you need anything in this area or lower Cincinnati or Northern Kentucky, let me know. I'm glad to help you, man. Or if you need an extra hand in the shop, again, reach out.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, man.
All right.
I
Thanks, Brice.
appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks. Have
Talk
a
to
good
you
one.
later.
Bye.